And welcome back to the Ultra Running Guys. You got Jeremy Reynolds and Jeff Winchester of the Ultra Running Guys. And the reason that we're here is to help you take your next step in your ultra running journey. And part of that next step oftentimes is figuring out what you are going to put on the calendar. So a while back, we started some race spotlight series where we're talking to race directors, talking about their races and getting you excited about why it may or may not be right for you. And we are super excited about this one. Jeff, tell us what we're getting into.
Sorry, I did laugh at you. But yeah, so today we are going to be talking about the Loopy Looper. And we're super excited to talk about this race because this race has shown up on a lot of our podcast episodes in the past. I think it's been 6 of our guests that have shown up that have talked about the race and told us a lot about their experiences there. And 2 of them have set course records, which we may touch on that later on as well. But we really wanted to introduce our listeners to this race since our guests have participated in it. We thought maybe all of our listeners may want to sign up and be a part of it as well. The race has a 12-hour, 24-hour, and a 100-mile event, as well as relay options for the 12 and 24 option for those looking at different formats. It is held on a 3.75-mile loop on a paved path around Cooper River Park in Pennsauken, New Jersey, if I've said that correctly, I believe.
Nice.
Thank you. All right.
That was 50-50.
According to the race website, this is one of the fastest looped courses in the country and a great chance to put in some serious mileage. And so with that, let's at least get to know our race directors, Jen Gaynor and Pete Greenfield. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. This is great.
Well, we're super excited. Like I said, we see pictures come out of the races, and we were talking about before, it looks like just a family gathering from the Ultra Running Guys community. I will drop a couple names because you've got a couple record holders that we've had on the show. So Michael Gagliardi, aka Gags, I think he's still your 12-hour record holder. And then we had Paul Johnson, who's running across the country right now, that is the 24-hour record holder. So if you guys have been listening for a while, you know those names. But
press pause. Gags loves their 12-hour event so much. He's got 5 of their top 10 times. And so I think he can't get enough of their race.
And so Gags, if you're plugged in, we love you, man. Nice work. But we'll get on to the race. So bottom line, we're super excited to talk to you guys. And we've got a bunch that we want to get the listeners, the watchers to get to know about the race. But before we get started, one of the things that we love to hear from the race directors is, what is your favorite thing about the Loopy Looper?
My favorite thing is just the overall vibe that we've created the last almost 6 years now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I love the vibe, there's something about the view from that loop course that I feel like you don't get at a lot of other loop venues, right? Like we get the Philly skyline, you get water views, you just get a lot of stuff that like, it keeps a loop interesting, right? It can be really monotonous, and there's something special about that venue. And the other thing that people don't know about that venue, or a lot of people don't know, is that from the 80s and 90s, it might have even been before that, there was a 6-day race on the track where our start finishes. So there's just like a lot of ultra running history that I swear you can feel when you're running around that loop.
That's awesome and timely.
Very timely. Point of clarification though on that. So I said you guys, the race was located in Cooper River Park, Pennsauken, New Jersey, but you just said we get a skyline view of the Philly.
We do.
Skyline. So there's, you're obviously on both sides of the river here, right?
No, so we're only on the New Jersey side, but when you cross over the one part of the loop, you get a direct shot of the Philadelphia skyline, totally unobstructed. As long as it's a nice clear day, you get a full Philly skyline view from Jersey.
Awesome. That's awesome. I got one more question. So Jen, you said your thing was the vibe, but so describe the vibe. If I'm there, I show up for the first time, like what is that feeling? What is it that you love about it?
I think you said it earlier. It's just a one big family like gathering. Everyone's super welcoming, no matter what experience level you're at, whether it's your first race or first ultra, or your Gags and you're out there for your 5th time. Everyone's just really welcoming.
Love it. All right. So you mentioned there's a lot of history like for the race, or at least for the track, right? How long has the Loopy Looper been going? And then on top of that, what do you think it is that, I mean, we just heard about the atmosphere. What do you think it is that keeps bringing people back?
Yeah, so this is year 6, right? And we really think like one of the things that keeps people coming back is that community vibe. It just draws people in. It's not a lot happens in the summer. So it's an opportunity to jump out into the summer, run around in circles with a bunch of other crazy friends that don't mind running in August. It's a crazy hot loop, and we get a lot of return runners. Like there's a core group of people that run our race every year. And whether it's Gags who's out running 70-ish miles every year, or somebody who's coming out running 5-10 loops, like you see it across the board. We just get a lot of return runners, and it's like a family kind of thing. And I would also be mistaken if I didn't mention our water guns. I swear people come back from the water guns. We have ice water guns at our main aid station that douse people as requested all day long.
So awesome. And in August, I'm sure that feels fantastic.
Yeah. It's also great training for any of the fall races that some people might be doing, like Yeti or Javelina, all the big ultras happening, especially out west. Good heat training.
Yeah, it's a good point, because I think a lot of people will take some of those timed events that you can get in an August event like yours, either 12, 24 hour, to get a chunk of mileage if they're training for a 100 miler in September or October timeframe, which, like you just mentioned, the Yetis in September, and then Javelinas in October. So those are two major fall races. And also I think Rim to Rivers in October as well. So a lot of people would use those types of events for build weekends. That's a good, great point of how you would approach something like that. So you spoke about the heat. Is that one of the things that you think runners tend to underestimate about that race?
Sure. The heat, it plays such a huge factor because it's on an asphalt paved path. So you got the heat from the ground. There's no shade above you. So you just have the sun blaring down on you. Definitely underestimate it.
Yeah, the forecast can be 100 degrees 2 weeks out, and people are still going to show up and underestimate the heat. There's something about running on asphalt that people don't really think about. And I cannot underestimate or overstate how much there is no shade. Right? Like there's just not. The shade that you get is at your tent at the pit, maybe a tree or two here or there. It is a fully exposed, very hot loop.
Yeah.
So just for perspective, because if somebody's listening, they may panic and they think, I don't want to run in August on asphalt and just blazing heat coming from the sun and also from the ground above. There are fast times that have been put out. Like we talked about Gags doing the 12 hour. He did 75 miles. I think it's his course record there. Paul Johnson's done 116 miles in 24 hours. And so those are pretty substantial times in the middle of August to run on a heat course.
We actually, with that said, we had a 12-hour team last year. A four-person relay 12-hour team hit 100 miles last year. And it was a 90-degree day. It was not a cold year.
So if somebody's listening in terms of tips or recommendations, right? How does somebody prepare for the race? What are the things that you're like, hey, I'm not your mom, but please show up like this because it'll make everybody's day better?
Hydrate.
Yeah, it's not just hydrate. It's like dialing in your electrolytes, right? There's a lot of people that can come out there and drink a ton of water all day and find themselves in a weird electrolyte imbalance, which is why we have tailwind on the course. It's why, we're a 3.75 mile loop and we have a midpoint aid station. And that midpoint aid station has water, it has tailwind, it has slushies. We go through 1,000 pounds plus of ice every year at the main aid station. We do as much as we can to set people up for success, even though it's a scorching hot race. Not to scare people off, it's hot, but we do as much as we can to help them succeed.
Awesome. And so sticking on, you touched on it a little bit for the aid stations. 2 aid stations. So it's a less than a 4-mile course. There's 2 aid stations, and we read, so confirm, that it is mandatory to carry a bottle. I'm assuming for the same reasons that you just stated. Is that still the case?
100%. Yeah.
Also, we're a coupleless race, so you need to provide your own bottle to get any of the liquids that we provide you. But you're just better off carrying something just in case you end up walking that almost 4-mile loop. Get out there. You don't want to be stuck out there with nothing.
Yeah, we do as much as we can to try to force the issue,
Yeah. Well, and I think that's an interesting. So I've been doing backyards for, the last handful of years. And a lot of times you think, oh, short looped course, I really don't need to carry much. Right. And you can get into that. And I will say, if you're somebody who is used to your day-to-day training, you're not used to carrying a bottle or having something on your back, it can be quite an adjustment. So, knowing that that's a requirement, I would say definitely practice. And, if you're somebody who tends to carry the bottle in the same hand, I highly recommend getting used to swapping it back and forth, because it will kill your arm to try to run 12 or 24 hours carrying a bottle in the same arm.
Yep. Free tip. I would have everybody take a sweat test before they try your race out to figure out how much water they actually need to drink during an hour. Because if you're talking about 4 miles in an hour, if they get really, really slow doing 15-minute miles, they need to figure out that they're going to be drinking at least 16 to 32 ounces of water in that hour is what most people are going to need to consume. Well over 16, to be honest with you.
Plus electrolytes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we go through a ton of water. We go through gallons upon gallons of Tailwind. We go through a ton of pickle juice. You name it, we blow through all of the supplies. And every year, I feel like we always end up buying more towards the end of the race. It's just when you think how much water people are going to go through, they triple it.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, you've been doing this will be your 6th year running the race. You've had the same setup pretty much, I guess, similar each time. You've got these aid stations where you mentioned you had slushies and you have Tailwind, you have water, and those are and pickle juice, right? You mentioned those things. What do you think, though, has been the favorite thing that people have enjoyed at your aid stations more than anything else?
Well, I think for our midway aid station, the slushies, that was a new addition last year. Shout out to our #1 volunteers, Anna and Albie, who run that aid station. We give them full act, like they can do anything they want there. And every single runner that came through the finish line last year were just raving about the slushies that they're making. So I think those #1 for that one. And then maybe our midnight pizza run at our main aid station. We do pizza in the middle of the night for everybody.
Yeah, the last few years around, depending on like logistics, 10 to midnight, we'll do a big pizza delivery. And we make sure we have vegan pizza. We go all out with it. So if you're running the 12, 24, or I'm sorry, not the 12, the 24 or the 100, you are set with pizza at night.
So good. And the slushy makes sense, right? Because you got cooling and you got, I'm assuming, just quick sugar. So it's probably the perfect little, hit.
So I'm going to ask another question about I'm like stuck on food, man. And so I just apologize now.
No, we can talk food all day.
I think it's great. So when we talk about races a lot, we often consider, the crew, and particularly since our wives will go with us to our races for most of the longer races as well. And we often look at the races and how they're going to be tended to, or what's available for them, and what their experience is going to be like, because how their experience goes also helps our experience as well. And so when you look at the crews that can come to your course, because you have a loop course and it's relatively short, I'm assuming your crews can kind of just camp out in a particular area. Do they have options for some of this midnight pizza and slushy runs?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whatever they want. Yeah, we take care of crews, 100%. Yeah. And our so conveniently directly next to our main aid station and like start finish area, there is a bar and restaurant. So we are very crew friendly.
I'm going to show that clip to Shannon.
Right.
Like, we're going to New Jersey right there. That's all she needed to hear.
Oh, I can just hang out over here. Text me when you're coming around.
Across the street so they can go to bed while you guys continue running.
Nailed it. So if everybody listening, if you're like, how do I get my family? That's it. That 30 seconds just told you, right? You got the food, you got a place to stay. But I will say, so again, I love the loop course. It's something I've done a lot over the last few years. So you guys say on your website, our events are designed to help you test yourself and find your limits. Whether you're new to running or looking to set a record, we've got an event for you. Now, obviously, you guys have multiple events, but talking about these type of timed loop courses, they're unique for a couple of reasons, right? Especially the timed. If anybody's listening and you're terrified of a DNF, go run a timed race. There is no way to DNF, right? It's just a matter of what you can do in that time. So you guys tell us, how does that play into kind of that mission that I just read? And what do you guys see from the runners that you really enjoy about that part of the event?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes it super inclusive. We want a race where Gags and Paul Johnson can show up, break a course record, PR, land in the top 10 times for the year, whatever it may be. And we also want somebody who's never run a half marathon before to show up and see what they can do for the day. It's the perfect venue for that, right? And honestly, we have a soft spot for loop courses. It's where we started in the industry, where we started running. I don't know. That's kind of always just been our thing, whether we're running or hosting events. Loops are just kind of our happy place.
Yeah.
That's great. So one thing I did notice about your events as well, the 12-hour and 24-hour, there's a particular rule that you have to have started and completed the loop by a particular point.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Can you explain that and tell me if you've ever had a problem with that?
I'll let you handle that one.
So year one, we had a runner disagree with that.
Well, explain the rule first.
Yeah, so you have to start a lap. You cannot start a lap within 30 minutes of the end of the race. with the idea that no one is running a sub 30-minute, 3.75 mile lap at the end of the race. Part of that is really just so people don't get stuck out on the course. We want to be able to focus on like the end of race experience, giving out the awards, making sure people get their swag, doing all of that stuff, mingling with the runners, making sure that like that's an optimal experience for them. And it's also something that we took from, we came from the obstacle racing ultra world before this. We used to run World's Toughest Mudder every year. And that was a rule that they had. They would close the start line at a certain time before the end of the race. And we really felt like that contributed to what it felt like to finish that race. And it's like this big party kind of vibe. And no one's just going to come straggling in 20 minutes after the end of the race. And it's also, to be perfectly honest, we don't want to have to track partial mileage, a little bit of selfishness there.
Yeah.
So you close it down 30 minutes before.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Awesome. So everybody has to kind of strategically plan how they're going to make that last lap that they want to start as well based off that.
Yeah. And, and 15 minutes before that moment, we're making announcements, usually making sure people are aware that the start line is going to close. Yeah. I mean, after year one, everybody's got it. We haven't had an issue since that first year.
And then for the 100-miler, just to point this out, because I know somebody who's running the 100-mile race that you guys have this year as well, you actually have to complete 27 loops. And so it's not 100 miles, it's 101.25 miles because that's how the math works out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're a loop course through and through. We may have a 100-miler, but we're a loop course.
They can't just stop at 100-mile marks at some point and say they got the 100-mile, can they?
No.
I mean, they can.
They can't.
Yeah.
I mean, they would just do an F, right?
I would say it's a DNF, right?
Yeah.
They literally have to do the 101.25 miles. And they have 30 hours to complete that, correct?
Right.
Yes.
So knowing that it's a loop course, obviously you've got multiple events all going at the same time. Is there a cap on registration? And if somebody's listening and is very interested because there's a hotel across the street and you guys do pizza for the crew, is there a chance, do you guys sell out? What do they need to know about registration?
So this venue is really unique, right? It's a really big park. It's still open to the public. And we've had this stance over the years where we're still kind of feeling out what the real capacity for the race is. In the first few years of the race, we used to cap it at a sort of arbitrary number of what we felt comfortable producing to make sure that we had the right experience for the runners, right? We kind of leaned into that for the first 4 years until we got into a really good groove. We have a really good crew of volunteers. We have really good staff that help us out. And now it's more of like kind of stress testing the course and our own abilities to produce the quality of an event that we want to without sacrificing anything for the runners. So it's probably not going to sell out this year. We want to kind of get a feel for what that venue could be. And it's kind of evolved over the years between us, the course itself, and kind of feeling out like what we want to produce. But we will not sacrifice the quality of the race. We want it to feel the same way every year. So as long as we are able to produce at a certain scale, like that's our limit.
Good. That's very good for people to know.
Yeah, I've got one follow-up question about the 100-mile race that just got my attention. I was looking back at my notes and everything, and I'm reading it, and it says, you got to complete 21 laps by 7 a.m. to be allowed to continue. Is that 7 to 8? So the mile marker, 7 to 8.77. So the cutoff is actually going to be at 1 p.m. that afternoon, correct?
To finish the race, correct.
Yeah. Okay. So you start at 7 a.m. and go to 1 p.m. the next day. Okay. I was wondering if it was ending at 1 p.m. or starting at 1 a.m. when I first read it. I wasn't quite sure which way that was going. But
oh, no. Yeah. We implemented a cutoff, a typical 100-miler cutoff just to get people up to a certain threshold by a certain time.
That works. That works
Makes
for me.
sense. So one of the things that you just mentioned was, or really a couple times, volunteers, your skeleton crew, right? Talk to somebody. So if somebody's listening, obviously there's an event for you if you're listening, whether it's a loop, whether it's a relay, any of that. But if you're in the area, you're not sure if you want to come volunteer, talk about the volunteer skeleton crew, like how that all works, what that means to you guys.
Let's earn some bones.
Yes. It's something we just created in the last couple of months, this last 6 months or so. Just a way to entice people to actually come out and experience the day if they aren't a runner or want to see what it's about and earn a way to come and run eventually.
Yeah, and you earn bones per hour, and you can redeem bones for race credits, race discounts. We're working out a program of different swag and apparel that people can earn because obviously not just runners volunteer for races and they should be taken care of too. So we're going to have things that you can earn and redeem your bones for, whether it's going to be hoodies or hats or bags, whatever. And just for anyone who joins the skeleton crew, you get an initial skeleton crew shirt. Kicks it off like that, and it can kind of snowball into something you can earn more with more races.
That's awesome. I wonder how many bones you get for hosting a podcast with them.
We can work something out.
I'm just kidding.
I believe if we follow the rules after 7 p.m., you get 15 bones per hour, guys.
Oh, okay, there you go.
No, I think that's so good though for people to hear. So, we put on races as well. One of the things that's really important for us, the whole reason we do it is to get people that may not normally be around an ultra to experience that, right? And I think that you have such a benefit, especially with the relay aspect, because if you happen to be listening, I get this is ultra running podcast. If you happen to be listening, you're like, hey, one day, just go do it, whether it's volunteer, be part of the relay, show up, be around it. I guarantee you will not regret it. And you guys know how to put on, a race. We've seen that coming out. So I think this is a good one.
I agree 100%.
No, thanks, guys. And I mean, the thing with the relay too, like our relay rules are very lenient, right? Every runner has to run a single lap. That's the general rule. So if you're somebody who doesn't want to run all day, but you have some friends that want to, and you want to come out and be a part of the party, you can totally do that. There's no minimum other than that one lap you have to complete. And even if you're somebody who doesn't really want to come out to a really hot ultra, but you want to check it out, I mean, we've started live streaming all of our races. You can check it out from home, maybe get enticed to come out next year. There's a way to tune in or participate for pretty much anybody at this point at these races.
Love it.
I want to hold a water gun.
What's that? Oh, yeah.
I want to hold a water gun.
Yeah. What about a water hose? Or fire hose?
We have a mister.
Oh, Mister doesn't sound as fun as a fire hose. But
I got a spritzer.
Well, here's the deal, guys. We have really enjoyed that, and I'm going to talk to the listeners, the watchers, real quick. I really hope you're getting the value. I hope you can tell how fun this race. I have to get out there. I know I say that quite a bit, but this is one that's been on the radar. And again, I want to be in the pictures that we see all the time. But our motto is just show up. If this is your first time plugging in, thank you so much for taking the time. We do also have just a regular podcast. Go check it out as well. And if you're coming back, your family, the normal ask, right? Do the like, do the subscribe, all that good stuff, and share with your friends. But you guys the Loopy Looper sounds amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about it tonight.
Thanks for
having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys. This was awesome.
Awesome.
Absolutely. We'll make sure that all the information is in the links. So go check it out, click those links, and
sign up.
And sign up.
And show up.
And just show up. All right, everybody, we will talk soon.
Cut. Thanks so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the content. If you haven't already, don't forget to check out our full lineup of podcast episodes that are designed to help you take your next step in your ultra running journey.
So be sure to check the links below, and you can visit our website at theultrarunningguys.com or download your episodes on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, when in doubt, just show up.
See ya.